name's Lucy, and our son told us about the abuse 18 months ago. He's now in his 20s, and the abuse was when he was a small boy.
My name's Anne. Lucy's my partner. Our son is in his mid-20s and was abused when he was 6 by a close family member.
Hi, I'm Jo. I'm here because my husband was abused when he started high school at the age of 9.
My name's Tracy. My husband was abused for many years when he was a young child.
My name is Erika. My partner was abused by trusted adults. Ladies, I have a very interesting question here. How could I not have known? Why didn't I see it?
I've asked myself the same question. My husband disclosed to me 10 years into our marriage, and I had no idea that had happened to him. I don't know. I don't know how I could not have known. And I asked myself why he didn't feel like he could tell me. But what I now understand is that it takes so many years for a survivor to disclose, and all those issues about shame and guilt and not being believed are really powerful.
It would never have been on my radar to link what I was seeing in front of me with childhood sexual abuse. There was a shift for us in his behaviour. Suddenly things started to unravel, and there was absolutely no explanation to me. So I saw the impact, but I just had no knowledge or understanding to put it all together. And in the early days, neither did he. I don't think it was so deeply buried.
I kind of did know. My partner disclosed when we were friends before we got into a relationship. So I did know, and I could see signs and indications, and I sensed there was something that may have caused his behaviour.
I think when our son disclosed to me, it was like a complete thunderclap. It just was a bolt out of the blue. Nothing that I had ever anticipated. And as soon as he said it, it made sense. A lot of things that had happened over the years and family dynamics and the way he was, it just all fell into place.
Yeah, the guilt. The guilt you have to wrestle with, and it's the biggie. I don't know how you get rid of it or get through it, because rationally I know, and especially since coming to SAMSN and learning a bit, I know now that the perpetrator groomed not only the victim but the family as well, because they need access.
It does, it slaps you in the face. How could I not have known, that this is your baby, the one that you've, been with day in, day out, year in, year out, and watched grow and nurture. And then to learn something so devastating in their past and such a betrayal is, you do question, what was I doing as a parent?
I really like this question. My needs often come second to his. What do you think, lady?
I think it's part of the dance. I think it's probably part of every relationship, really, is to work out when they do and when they don't, they shouldn't. And I think as a support person, I've had to work out the balance of that, and to give myself permission to actually recognise my own needs. Yeah. So
sometimes they do come first.
Yeah.
Sometimes our needs have to come first, and I guess as long as it is, like you say, a dance, it's a lovely way to put it. I guess it's the way in any partnership. Sometimes someone's struggling and they need to be carried, and at other times it's us.
I found this particularly, my husband chose to take his case through the court system, and we all know that part of the impact is a fear of authority, I think, and losing their voice in authority. I found it really difficult to negotiate what I thought were my needs and my family, my children's needs, to be represented at that time without taking his voice away from him. So our needs were a little different. They were connected, but they were different. And I had to just put my need for our story to be recognised at that time just to the background and let his needs in going through that process and having his voice in that be the main need or the main thing that was addressed.
When they get triggered is one example. I think when they get triggered by something and it might really upset them and, spoil the day, so to speak, for them. But I think we can just say, look, hey, do you want to go for a walk? Just to go through something. And, then we can both support each other's needs.
I think our needs as parents, with or without abuse and trauma, we put our children's needs before us anyway. That is, as you say, that's the job description.
It is really easy to get swept up into dealing with their issue, their trauma, trying to resolve that or, help them resolve that. And I mean, I found maybe, 6 months after my son disclosed his abuse to me, I was just having these nightmares, like most nights with the perpetrator in there, and I was just getting, grinding teeth and tension in the neck. And so, I mean, it is, their needs are paramount as a mother. But you do have to look after yourself, and you have to be aware of the kind of the reflected sort of trauma that we take on. We can't help them if we, run ourselves into the ground.
That's right.
Totally.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I think this is one that I had to probably wrangle with a little bit myself and work it out. But the question is, I can't talk to anyone because it's not my story to tell.
Yeah, I really struggled with that too. You wanted to protect my husband's privacy. I didn't want to breach his trust, but it was such a hard and lonely time. And I just felt really alone. I needed some help and some support as well. And I think once I did talk to my husband about how I was feeling and that I needed some help too, that it was actually really good for our relationship.
I think it's a really interesting question because I think the abuse is not my story, but the impact of the abuse is certainly my story. And so there are two stories almost connected here. And I think my husband and I made a decision early on that we were going to do our bit to remove some of the shame by not being silent. So we've probably been a bit more proactive in telling the story where it's been appropriate. But what I have learned is that I'm very protective of who I share that story with and whether they will respect it or not. So I'm probably a bit more guarded there. But there's definitely, I've had to own really and give myself permission to acknowledge that this is part of my story and I have a story to be told that's different but connected. So.
You want to respect your child's privacy, and you have to, because you have to keep the trust between the two of you. That's absolutely key. The one thing we talked about was, okay, no more secrets, that it's in the shade of secrets. That's where shame gets to thrive.
That's right. And where abuse occurs. From the minute he told me, I just thought, we've got to get sunlight on this story because we can't allow it to continue. It just perpetrates the abuse, the secrecy.
You've still got to be careful. You've got to choose. You've got to think through who can I talk to? Why do I need to tell someone this? Like, there's just so many questions wrapped up in that question. But I am sure that keeping it secret is not right. But, all of us came to SAMSN, which That is, I think, the single best decision that we've made.
I do want to shine light on this, and there is no shame for my family.
Yeah.
There's but no shame on my son, and there's no shame on us as parents for what someone else has done to him.
Yeah, the shame is on them.
The shame is on them, and we're, like I said, we've got to put light on the whole issue to allow other people, hopefully, to also, come out and talk about what's happened to them.